At this point, I'm not really sure why I'm doing these videos. I think I just want to think out loud, and if I am brave enough, I'll put them on the internet. Hello, internet. I've been thinking about the, I would say the justification of religion, or let me say the flaw in some Harris's thinking of religion, and I'm going to attach it to the flaw of Jordan Peterson's thinking on religion. That one's vague, honestly speaking, so I won't touch on it much. The first time I met, or the first time I saw Sam Harris talking about religion, it was on an argument between him and a guy called William David Craig, William Lane Craig. Very brilliant man, very brilliant theologist. And I had a problem with Sam Harris's argument because at the core of the argument is the assumption that religion is violent. I think that it manifests itself as violent, and what he takes in is all these stories in there that are violent. And I want to kind of touch on two things so that this isn't very long. And the first one is the purpose of the Bible, right? And the Bible isn't a rule book, right? I'll actually touch on three things. The Bible isn't a rule book. That's not how it's posited to be. It's posited to be the Word of God, and a lot of it is narration. That is, it is saying things that have happened before, right? And all these things are narrated by a man of God, and therefore are words inspired by God, and therefore are words of God. Something of the sort. But ideally, they're narrations. So what happens is, for example, they will narrate a lot of cruelty, right? Societies, a community going to war with another community, for example, or God allowing one community to win a war with another community. And so the first thing is, because I've seen this before, a lot of people kind of narrate how the Bible is a cruel book. And it would be the same as if somebody narrated our current generation. If somebody actually put down the words on a book, and then a generation 500 years from now saw it, and it's like, am I depicting a violent generation? Then it's like, okay, yeah. Then it's like, it's because that's what happened. So like with us, maybe not violent, maybe let's say desensitized, and it's like, am I depicting a desensitized generation? Then it's like, yeah, that's what I'm doing. And it's the book isn't violent. The book isn't telling you to be violent. The same way that book would not tell you to be desensitized. It would just tell you that once upon a time there were people who were desensitized. The second thing is the nature now of God and the people. Now in the Bible, you're going to find a lot of instances where God does things which, as people, they would be kind of weird, mostly when you're talking about a God of unconditional love, a benevolent God. And this is where God chooses one person over other people, Abraham. God chooses one tribe over other tribes, Israel. And then God chooses to give them victory over other people that he created, Moabites, Amalekites, all these people who were not his children, in quotes. And the Bible presents it as a plan, right? God is using the Israelites to manifest his glory to his people after, because they divorced. If you remember, like if you go back in the Bible, after Noah, right? Noah and the ark, he destroys the world, and then he recreates the world anew, and the contract, and there's a new contract at that particular point in time. And there's a fallout with Adam, and there's a fallout with with Noah. And here is where now God tries to rekindle a relationship or a position within the world where it's like, these are children of Yahweh who will help the world look at Yahweh. And he does that through giving them successes and positing them in a place where it's like, okay, these are my children, and they'll have all these successes out of it. And what I want to kind of touch on is the relationship between the creator and the createe. I don't know if that's how it's supposed to be. The creator does not fall under the moral guidelines of the creation, even if he is the one who creates the moral guidelines of that creation. And I'll use an example. If I make a laptop and its work is to make software, right? That's the primary work of it. And I have made it from scratch. It fulfilling that purpose is a good thing. It is good because it was made to do that, and then it does that. It fulfilling a purpose that is ulterior to that is bad. But that doesn't mean that I must be a software developer. I could be anything else. And it's the same thing with this. Okay, or even another example. What if I made a laptop which is made of rubber, and so I can use it to code, but I can kick it around, right? And its potential is mostly in coding, but as a creator I can kick it around. If I made it for that and I actually use it for that, then it is a good creation. It is good to me because I made it. I choose its purpose. The moral guidelines that we follow within ourselves do not necessarily extend to God. So, and I'll give an example. If God decides to kill a person, right? Now, within the people, there's a moral guideline that murder is bad, okay? So that seems unfair. It seems wrong. And again, it's because a life has value, and losing that value is bad. But from the person who can create that value, then there's no moral ambiguity. He has the right to do whatever he wants with his creation. And if killing one of it glorifies him, and that's how, because the Bible kind of moves with all creation is there to glorify him. Like, you can follow every single thread of places where it seems like, why is God letting people do this? And all of them just kind of head to glorify him, which is just to make him happy. And the thing is, if you achieve that one purpose, if a creator does something that achieves that purpose with its creation, it's okay, right? So an argument where, like, for example, you say what's the one that you discount God on the basis of his lack of benevolence, or his lack of benevolence makes the religion violent. I would say no, not really. The relation between the creation and the creator and the creation really does not allow the creator to have the same moral guidelines as the creation, right? They don't really have to be tied. What happens is, if there are guidelines given, they sometimes reflect the temperament or the character of the creator. So if he thinks X is good, then it usually just points to the creator. And even destroying human life, for example, doesn't really point to a being who discounts human life, because he'll protect it elsewhere. It usually just points to a larger picture. And I'm going to give the example of a watchmaker, because we had a discussion with some people on Telegram on this. And the idea is, we have a watchmaker and we have the watch itself. And we usually think of ourselves, the humans, as the watch, right? The thing that he made, and he made perfectly. And the idea is, because he made us, the watchmaker made the watch, it's perfect. But and taking any piece of it apart is bad, right? But you can look at yourself as the watch, and you can also look at yourself as the gear in a watch. And that means, if I'm straining you a bit, but I'm straining you a bit for the good of the entire watch, that means the watch is more precise, but I need to kind of really tighten the screw. The screw is under pressure, it's under a lot of tension, and that might not be very good for the screw, but it might be good for the watch in general. And that's not the best example in the world, but I think it communicates something, that sometimes you need to look at yourself as gears, right? You're not the creation, you're a part of the creation. You being tensed up or you being X'd out might be good for the entire picture. And as long as the entire picture is good, that actually vilifies the creator of any guilt, right? He is doing good by himself. And the third thing I would say is, people pick up on any ideology and make it horrendous, right? So in all stories where it's Christians picking up a religion and oppressing people, and Islam picking up the religion and offending people like a group like ISIS, you're also going to find a group that picks up a political ideology and oppresses people, and it's the common denominator there isn't the religion, right? It's the people, right? You have people who are elite you have people who want to establish control over others, or who want to establish some world order onto others, and then you have them trying to do so using religion. So religion, it could be progressive or conservative philosophies, it could be religious philosophies. I mean, what people do is they pick up whatever ideology they have, they just use it as a tool to control. So it doesn't necessarily point back to the ideology being bad. Mostly when you actually go into the ideology and it points to the actions that are being done and saying that is bad, So I'd say maybe like those three things kind of, it usually shows that Sam Harris has a very moralistic centered view of religion, and that is good and bad. If you do good, you go to heaven. If you do bad, you go to hell. And there's a lot more to religion than that. I'm not really coming to defense of religion. I just don't think those arguments specifically actually like point towards discounting religion, So like when they're presented to you, you can kind of roll back into something else. I think the biggest thing that usually challenges religion is the existence of a deity, whether there's a deity to be worshipped, whether there's a deity, and whether and the idea of worship, whether we should worship the deity. So is there a God? And that's a harsh debate, but I'll talk about it later, another video maybe. And if there's a God, should we worship the God? Is there any reason to worship him, right? Because the world seems already created, we already have our free will, and worship is a very self-centered action, right? Mostly when it's conscious, So is there any need for worship? And then is there any need for ritualistic worship? That is with repetitive actions like reading and praying, reading the Bible and praying and all those kinds of things. So I'd say those are the kind of things that you can hit on if you want to discount religion. And I think the first one, like arguing for and or against a deity, is the biggest one. But I think the second one is very, very closely related. Because even if we move under the assumption of a God or a lack of God, establishing if the second one matters pretty much establishes whether religions are necessary or not. But I usually find a lot of religions, there's a lot more to it than moral, like it being moralistic centered. That is, good and evil being the definitive argument in these very, very long books. For Christian, I think even if you're a bad Christian, you still have access to heaven, and it's because you have accepted Jesus as your Lord and Savior. And usually that is okay. Like the Bible usually states that that's all you need to do. Doesn't matter where you come from, doesn't matter how evil you are, you get saved, and what happens is there's an expectation of do these small things, but God is the one who will transform you from the inside. And it's like even if you're not transformed from the inside, but you're a very, very firm believer, then guess what? You're still going to go to heaven as long as your heart is properly aligned to God. And then the assumption is, if it's properly aligned to God, then there will be a transformation. So I wouldn't really say that, for example, that religion is evil, for example, because I usually feel like Sam Harris poses it like that, or posits it like it's, I think Richard Dawkins posits it like it's dumb to be religious, like it's foolish. And I'd say that one is foolish, because you just kind of need to look around, people who are atheists aren't necessarily smarter. You're going to find people who are religious and are in very, very high places, like places where there's a lot of like intelligence required, conscientiousness required, and you're going to look at atheists and you're going to find the same thing. They're spread out. You're going to find people who are pretty smart and maybe not that smart, and you're going to look at the other side of the aisle and you're going to find the same thing. And I don't think it's because religion is mostly based on a belief. You're gonna come to a person and you're gonna provide empirical evidence, and it's gonna matter not because to him he has a personal encounter with his being, and I mean, you can argue against the encounter and nobody ever gets that deep. Nobody ever goes like, okay, fine, let's argue like against the encounters that you've had personally with. Sam Harris has once. There's an argument he put out that was something around like all religious sects seem to have the same, I'd say, emotion in worship, or like when talking to their God. So it's like in your surrender, in your encounters with God, with Yahweh and with Allah, the experience seems to be exactly the same. And so you can say, okay, fine, well, that's weird, that means maybe there's you don't need to follow the same rituals that have been stated in your book to get to the feeling that you're getting to. And there's an argument where I saw, I don't know if it's an argument I saw, it's something I formulated, I can't remember, but the same feeling, this was what I went through, it can actually be seen in places which you can say are somewhat secular, like in concerts. When people are in concerts and there are very, very many people, and it's a very emotional concert, there's usually the feeling of surrender, right? Of giving something that is very core in yourself away, and surrendering to the feeling that's around you. And that's also something else. So it's like, okay, fine, there's this feeling that's very found in religion only, but you can also find it outside religion, and you can kind of go like, okay, fine, that's something that you should probably think about. But the argument against God, I'd say, is mostly fought on those two fronts. Is there a God, and is there a reason to worship God if the God is there? And you can probably trickle it down, but like those are definitive. Because like once you get to the second one, you're like, is there a reason? Like, even if you believe in God and there's no reason for worship, then you're already outside a religion, but you may be believing in a God. And there's little you can do to prove that God is there. What you can do is kind of just increase the probability of belief that God is there. And if you say you don't believe because there's no empirical evidence, and that's also okay. Although there's a lot of pointers that you cannot ignore towards an intelligent design, and therefore an intelligent designer. So I'd say like that's what I usually have a problem with Sam Harris's view of religion as this monster. But also I'd say I have a problem with Jordan Peterson's view of religion, because of it's very hard to kind of place what's happening. I don't think he believes in the metaphysical beliefs of religion, of Christianity, because that's where he is. So I can't really hold him to that. I can hold him to the fact that he does strongly believe that our societies are very heavily benefited, at least with the moral principles we usually have from Judeo-Christian beliefs, and that's true. I mean, our society is heavily built on beliefs in Christianity. They've spread in our societies, then they spread in our laws, and then people just kind of started falling off from it. So like from European countries all the way to the Americas, and maybe in like the entirety of the world, right? And then that builds up like in our laws and such, because I think even America, like in God We Trust, the Declaration of Independence, I think, and even in Kenya, like a lot of the laws you'll find are very, very heavy on Christian beliefs, and even some of our social constructs, like why most people will think homosexuality is wrong. The basis for it is religious. It's not scientific, it's not logical. But I mean, again, I'd say like with Jordan Peterson's argument, even if you had a fundamentally atheist society back in the day, I honestly feel like we would get to the point where we are through trial and error. And it's because morality is formed through empathy, I'd argue. It's the fact that you look like me. And so if something happens to you, it mirrors onto me because I don't want it to happen to me. It's like, oh, you look like me. You got hit by a car. You're pretty much in pain. I feel that pain because if I get hit by a car, I'd probably feel the same amount of pain. And the closer a person looks like you, the more empathy you have with him. And so the more intervention or expression you feel like imprinting onto him. So like if we're bonded more on gender or on race, skin color, ethnic tribes, and all these things, the more if something happens to you, there's a need to intervene, and it's because it could also happen to me, and those, like that one feeling, causes us to create either written or unwritten moral contracts with each other. And so it's like if I step on you and you're in pain, there's an expectation of you to feel bad about it and then apologize, And it's born on the same principle of, like, I stepped on you. If you step on me, I'll be in pain. You need to understand that that is wrong, You've inflicted pain on someone. You've inflicted something that you don't want on yourself on someone else. There's an idea that you should apologize. And there are so many principles we've created in our society and in our legal systems that are based on that. And that's not religious at all. Not even a bit, It's more, what's this word? That's just based on our interactions between ourselves. And the thing is, even if there was no religious society to carry this forward, to come down with, 10 commandments or something of the sort, we'd probably figure it out. And then we'd probably create some set of rules within ourselves, and we would force it down on our societies. Because before, you had a small elite controlling a large number of people, and they would be transferred into our states, which look like now, but like where we have democratic systems, We would still pretty much get to where we are even without those principles. Would it take longer or shorter? I don't really know. You could probably argue for both, but that's dependent on other factors. But we probably get to the same place where we are. So should we value the fact that a lot of these Christian principles are the ones which seem to have trickled down the moral principles we have in society currently? Yeah, we can do that, but we should probably, but as easily as we can assume that we might have not gotten there by ourselves, we can probably make the assumption that we could have gotten there by ourselves either way. I think that's even the higher one, we would learn the same way we have learned, through conflict about it's like we have these laws, and it's like, do we get to this point? And we don't really know, and we do something that's conflictive, and that conflictive thing has such a massive effect that we need to look into that, and then we create laws that govern that, and then we just kind of continue expanding on that until we're at a point where it's like we are in a point where we don't even need to have the same opinions, but we have principles which govern us pretty well. We would probably get to the same point without religion, I would argue. So I think those are my thoughts on those two things. I feel like both of them they have very broad belief systems, yeah. But in their core, there's something that they usually tend towards. There's something that they have a lot of loyalty to. Sam Harris has a lot of loyalty to the fact that he's atheist, and not even to the fact that it's atheist, to the fact that religion is bad, that his beliefs will somewhat kind of whip back to that, and he'll make sense, and then he'll whip back to the fact that religion is bad, and it will seep into his statements, because I think it's something that he firmly believes in. Even with Islam, I don't really want to touch on Islam because my understanding isn't that wide, but with Christianity it is, and I think many times when he speaks, it's very clear he isn't one, has never been one, and probably doesn't have anyone around him that is. And that's why he has such a, let's say, moralistic view of the Bible. Like it's meant to teach you what is good and what is bad, and that's not really it. Kind of just misses the mark a bit. So yeah, that's it. Any feedback would be nice, I'd say.